Welcome everybody. How is everyone doing today? It is round 3 of the. Oh, hang on. I feel like we may have lost Zach already. Zach, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, mate. We've lost picture of you, buddy. We've lost the
Oh, have we?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, not an
strange.
ideal start. Very strange. I will send you the link in the chat as well. Just click the link and we'll get you back in.
Oh, hang on. There we go.
Oh, are we back?
Should be. I've been staring at myself in the camera for the last 5 minutes.
Oh.
And I think I forgot to press join. I'm sorry about that, everyone.
That's all right. He's back. So it's round 3 today, then, of the Tuatara Championship. Obviously, last week will not count. That round 2 will be added on at the end of the season. But it's all about today, Zach, isn't it? Abu Dhabi, interesting track, great overtaking points. You know, you've got to be smart in that ARS saving, haven't you?
You really do. It's, of course, the new rendition that we saw back in 2021, having the adjustments that made it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun to drive as well. Missing the first chicane adds a lot more flat-out section, more opportunity to use your ERS. Then, of course, that back straight where you don't take that chicane, you again go through a long, fast left-hander. Again, more high-speed section, more incentive to use that energy recovery system. So managing that is, as always, going to be really crucial. And also the rivalry that we saw, of course, last week didn't count, but what a race that we did have, regardless. The rivalry that we saw between Carlson and Forest Fires, once again on top form, those two will be ones to watch going forwards. And all in all, I think we're in for a cracker of a season. Abu Dhabi, not really a track that you often see for round number 3, but let's have it.
Let's have it, yeah, of course. And just speaking on the track there, that new section of the track, there's a lot of different lines to take through there as well, whether or not you're attacking or defending into that turn. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop that through the race. Qualifying is underway, but first, let's take a look at the team lineups. We had a few guys being replaced from last week to this week, so we've got some other drivers, of course. We've only got 18 out there today with a couple of reserves as well. So let's take a look at the new team lineup, shall we? So in the Red Bull, we've got Flores and Slapbus. In the Mercedes, we've got WR Chris, who has just taken that seat. Alongside him is Curse. We've got Ferrari of Gagli and Wapple. That is unchanged today. In the McLaren, we've got Oyster and Phantom. They're both out there today. One of them going round on a hot lap as we speak. Carlson and Nathan Clark then in the Aston Martin. Them two are out racing today. F1 Kimi and Pricey replacing a full-time seat there in the Alpine. We've got Sam, who's unfortunate that he cannot make it. Neither can Zach. So the two Alfa Romeos are not racing today. I see you not racing. Also AMS Chrissy in the AlphaTauri. Banana in the Haas. Alongside him is the new seat for Oliver James as well. So a couple of new faces out there today.
Yeah, and of course, with the fact that, we went through the qualify stages as such, this gives the guys that didn't quite get there this second chance. The people that made it and, of course, have, for whatever reason decided to drop out or not attend today, gives these newer guys a chance to show their talents in the spotlight, get themselves onto the big stage and demonstrate what they are capable of in what is already an incredibly stacked grid with such levels of competition. I mean, of course, F1 Esports driver Forest Fires, his rival of Carlson, the reigning champion. So much talent is on this field. So a lot of pressure on the reserves' shoulders, of course, whether it's a one-off, whether they're joining for the rest of the season, whatever the case might be, they're going to have to deliver.
Yeah, and of the actual official reserves that are in today are F1 Lewis and Missing 199. The other drivers that have managed to get themselves a full-time seat. So the only actual reserves out there today are F1 Lewis and Missing One. F1 Lewis in the Williams and Missing 199 in the AlphaTauri. So then, shall we get into qualifying? I think we shall. Sorry, what? What just happened?
Has the session crashed?
I'm not sure what's just happened. I think we've had a couple of minutes of qualifying, and the whole session has completely crashed. That's interesting, considering they've just had an update. So they've done well on that one, Zach, haven't they?
Well, we won't dwell too much and point the blame finger too quickly, but it's a tricky one for sure. Not ideal, not the way that we want to start this evening. Of course, we had the formation app issue at Zandvoort. We had to very quickly pull things over last week for Catalunya, and unfortunately, third time wasn't the charm. Next week, maybe we'll have a flawless one.
Maybe. Anyway, it's a new lobby again, guys. So just bear with us while we set this up, and we shall be back with you hopefully within a few minutes. We'll get this one as quick as we can, okay, guys? BRB. Can you name off what we're missing?
Okay. No one in the Alfa Romeo, are there? And the other Red Bull, so Floris and
Two reserves in, which is
check in. Alster, Kimmy, Walpole, Carlson, Chris, Pricey, Slapbus, Banana, Curse, Nathan, Floris, Phantom. Is he not in the Mercedes? Oh no, he's not. No, sorry, I didn't see the empty space in the Mercedes. No, that's my bad. Yeah, Floris is in. So yeah, we're missing Curse, I think.
then that should be it.
Perfecto.
Put in the chat just quickly before we get going, so we don't double check just at division. Realised joined who.
Phantom needs an invite apparently.
Apologies, guys. We're almost ready to go again.
Oh, I know why.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again, and once again we have. There we go. We've had some issues today, but we're back, ladies and gentlemen. A quick lobby reset, but we are back, readied up to go again. Like I say, it's going to be an 18-minute qualifying session, along with a 50%. Hopefully, with no hiccups this time round. That was quick for that to go wrong, wasn't it?
Didn't take very long, no.
No, we didn't, did it?
We'll hope that in a week's time things are a little bit better when we head to Austria, because that is a great track. So hopefully we should have a great broadcast with zero issues. The unfortunate thing about live streaming is that things go wrong, and well, fingers crossed that second time is the charm for this evening, because we'd like some racing.
Fingers crossed the F1 24 game is going to have no issues. We hope and pray every year. Every year it's the same, don't we? That next year will be better. Next year will be better.
It's like Ferrari fans, isn't it? Really,
it is, isn't it? It's next year. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the qualifying. And of course, this is the Tuatara Championship. You don't know what Tuatara is, go and check it out. And of course, if you want any of this equipment for 15% off, all you've got to do is use code PattyPat15 to receive 15% off. Anyway, we've got qualifying. 18 minutes. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, Zach. Who's your money on for qualifying today then, Zachy boy?
Oh, I mean, that's a difficult one. Obviously, we had, I believe Carlson was the one that took pole when we went to Catalonia. Forest Fires, understandably, up there as well. I know it's a cliche thing to do. I know it's sort of the expectation, the cop-out answer as such. I would have to go with either Carlson or Floris Fires. Of course, we spoke with Floris a number of times so far this season, and he is quite eager on the fact that he hasn't practiced much. He doesn't get much practice in, or he hasn't done so far this season. and yet we've still seen quite a top-level driver. So obviously we don't know how much practice he's been able to get in this week. If it's any more than he has been doing for the last couple, I would hedge my bets that he's going to be fairly quick in qualifying.
I'll tell you what's interesting is you've got a little bit of a fight here in quali on who wants to be first round for their hat lap. A little bit of a fight there between the Williams and Haas driver, I believe. It was Banana then. Banana not wanting to mess about, and he wants to be first across that line to set his banker lap.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see as to why he is so eager, I have to be honest. I mean, maybe just wants to get a lap in. Maybe his sort of installation lap is a little bit more high-paced, or he just wants to get into the rhythm of things. But there you can see, starting this lap, Banana definitely not a bad driver by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, has been here since the start of the season, and now gets to take us on a tour of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix circuit.
Sorry, I just like. There we go. Sorry about that. Right. So yeah, Banana on the first one out there on his hot lap. Coming down the long straight here. Great overtaking opportunity here. And he's hard on the brakes here, isn't it? Around about the 120-metre mark into the short chicane. And it's away they go again. The exit has to be bang on here, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, you need to put the foot down because you've got another long flat-out section just after this. The exit speed, so important around Abu Dhabi. Now, of course, into this brand new section. Well, I say brand new, it's about 3 years old now, but you can carry so much speed. Hit the first apex, let the car run out wide, use the track as it widens on the exit. Now into one of the most fun complex of corners. You brake pretty much as soon as the car is straight, down to second gear, up to third, then through the slightly altered final sector, just to make it a little bit less clunky, less stop-start. You can flow quite nicely, and then into the final 2 corners.
A little bit of traffic there before Ferrari gets over and out the way for him, and the banker lap for Banana is a 1:22.3 for the Haas driver. First one to put a marker down there today, then.
Yeah, good lap time indeed. Let's see how well he can improve on it as the session progresses. Of course, the sun beginning to set here in Abu Dhabi. Track temps probably still fairly hot, so the soft tyres might be feeling the heat at the end of a push lap. Sloshy puts in a lap time as well, 1:22.5 in the early stages of qualifying. Not much that we can read into as of yet. Not really major push laps or anything like that. We're at the stage of the session where people are just getting acclimatized, bedding themselves into the session, finding their feet. It's really probably in about 10 or so minutes time we're going to start seeing the quickest lap times be put down.
Talking about quick lap times, here we go then. Flores coming around the last bend then to set his banker lap. He'll be the one to set the marker there, and it's a 1:21.5 from Flores, putting the marker down early, and we expect that to maybe improve, but at least we know what pole is going to be there roundabouts.
Yeah, I'd say if they can aim to maybe get themselves into a low 21, have to be honest, I really don't know what a quick lap time around Abu Dhabi is. I used to be sort of a low 30 was a decent lap time, but of course they made the track a lot quicker, so obviously the lap times are a lot lower. But all in all, I think 21.5, based off the lap times that we've seen from Flores, a very strong starting point. You've got to be careful not to peak too early. I doubt that is the case with Flores, but nonetheless, it is a huge statement for this session. Again, can't really read too much into it. It's not like he secured pole position just yet. Still plenty of lap times to come in from plenty of people, but as I say, definitely not a bad way to start the session.
Carlson then, it seems like we've got a bit of a rivalry forming already. Carlson and Flores are the ones that are at each other's heels each week. We're riding on board with the Aston Martin driver right now as he starts his hot lap. A bit of traffic in front of me, but he's going to be the one that can pretty much match, if not take it to Flores, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely one to watch, the Aston Martin. You can see nice clear track ahead of him. No traffic to contend with for now. Once again into this left-right chicane. Of course, as we said, a key overtaking opportunity. You can definitely flick it left, then right, run side by side quite nicely off the exit and just keep the run as short as you possibly can. That is all about, just keeping the steering wheel as straight as it can be, minimizing the run, using every little bit of track that you possibly can. Purple to the middle sector or so, the game says. Let's see what Carlson can set down as a banker.
What he can do. Sorry, mate, just had to set another invite for another driver. Seems like people are lagging out today. Hopefully we don't get too many race. The Aston Martin driver then got the 2 last corners to the gate. A 1:21.57 is to beat. So far, it goes wide, invalidates it on the last turn.
Would have been pole.
It would have been pole with a 1:21.4, but he invalidated. He must have been kicking himself there, Zach.
Yeah, see, I mean, the positive there to take is that the lap time was good enough for pole position. The thing that he can't, as we say, this early on in the session, you can't read too much into the lap times being put down. However, the fact that he has now got 0 lap time at all means that there is a lot more pressure for the rest of the session. You know, you get 18 minutes, but that's sort of divvied up into 3 or 4 runs or such, depending on how many sets of tyres that you wish to use. So you divvy up into 3 runs. The first one, you go out, you put a lap time down, you get a lap time down as such. Just something there that you can fall back on. The second one, you go a little bit quicker, you push the limits, you try and find your optimal, and then you don't quite reach it. Then the final one is your do or die. This is, I've got my decent banker time. If it goes wrong, I can fall back on that. And now is my time to just push the limits. If I invalidate, I invalidate, but I need to find some time. What this does now for Carlson is just, sort of shuffle everything forward. And if he wants to put down a lap time that matches or beats Forest Fires a little bit later on in the session, he's going to have to take more risk. But then the more risk of that results in a higher potential of him invalidating the lap time, and a strong possibility that either he plays it safe and gets a slower lap time, or takes the risk and ends up with no lap time. So it might not be that deep, but it definitely could be quite detrimental for Carlson going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, he's putting the pressure on. I've just had a few comments there about the audio. Is it the game audio, or are you having issues with our speech audio, guys? If you could give us some feedback whilst we're going, that would be great, guys. I did see that audio is awful. I'm hoping it's the game audio where we can't do anything about. But we are trying to make the audio a lot better each week. It's the game audio. Okay, yeah. So the game audio is screwing up as well. Game audio sounds like it's underwater. Strange.
Well, I mean, I know Abu Dhabi is sort of the Yas Marina Island, I believe, is a man-made one, but I don't think it's submerged just yet. I've got to be honest. That would be obviously less than ideal. I mean, I know the Ferrari is a boat, but didn't know if it's going to be taken literally or not. Unfortunately, again, spectating on F1, not the most ideal thing. Of course, there has been so many times that glitch where just every gear is just max revs.
They haven't really seemed to got that right, have they, throughout the years?
I remember when I first started commentating on F1 back in, what was that, 2020? Back end of the game in 2020, so sort of the midpoint of 2021. It was bad then, and I think it's been the same for the last few years since. So, but
I always find that every time they do an update with a game, it kind of so the new updates have come out. It always brings out some others straight away. Like they do updates, they fix an issue, and it just creates more issues in another way. So, but the speech is fine. The audio is a bit laggy, but our speech is fine. We fixed it, Zach, from last time. Perfect.
We're just that good, aren't we? We're like professionals.
We try to be. Anyway, riding on board with pricing. A little bit of a wobble on there. Going through Sector 1 in the Alpine car. Nice and shiny. We have a little soft spot for Alpines, don't we, guys?
Well, I mean, you do, definitely.
A little bit, yeah.
I've got no affiliation, so I can butter up to whoever I want, really. But no, the Alpine livery looks good. I know that one of the livery designers for Alpine, and for a while, obviously working for Renault, they had a really easy job of things, just copy and pasting every year. Now, of course, they've decided to mix it up with the BWT sponsorship, mixing in the pink with the blue, which I have to say, very interesting colour scheme nonetheless.
I think it works.
Somehow they make it work.
I think it works. I bought a new water bottle the other day, and it's like white, pink, and blue. It's like genuinely quite interesting. You know those big water bottles that gives you the amount of water you need to drink a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's in the colour scheme of the Alpine, which I found pretty decent.
Lovely.
Anyway, moving on swiftly. Still riding on board with the Alpine, then coming around the last bend. He's got a 1:22.7 Is he going to beat it? He does. He gets himself up into 7th place, 1:22.5. The times are getting closer together with only 7 minutes left to go.
Yeah, really towards the business end of the session. You might be able to scrape in 2 runs if you're lucky. Of course, those may be joining us from the wider world of sim racing, likes of iRacing as such. That time at tick 0, it does not necessarily mean the immediate end of the session. They are allowed to finish the lap once they have crossed the checkered flag. Of course, as long as they've done it before the checkered flag is waved, then they can finish the lap and get it over and done with. But only 6 minutes 30 left. Again, you think that's a long time because the lap's only 1:21, but by the time you've done an outlap, flying, and what an improvement as well. But only by a 10th of a second though from Forest Fires. Now he's got to do a cool down lap, maybe come into the pits, maybe go again, and that is going to eat out a good chunk of the time that we've got left in the session. Either way, 21.4, 6 tenths quicker so far than Chris in second. He's in control.
Carlson, obviously invalidating his first run with 6 minutes left to go. He's on his hot lap right now. Can he replicate the invalidation lap? Because that still would have put it on pole, right?
Just about, if not, it would have been very close. It would have been down to the 100th of a second as opposed to the 10th as such. So definitely very, very close indeed. You can see on the exit of the turn 4, of course, the first major braking zone really of the circuit. Gets past the Alfa Romeo quite nicely and he's trying to push the limits. But again, can he afford to? I mean, at this stage, surely for Carlson, it's the case of I've got to use this lap time just to put a lap time down. With how close and competitive it is, it's going to make life so much more difficult for him if he messes up this lap and then all the pressure is on that final one. However, going purple to the middle sector, it's not a bad way to do a safe lap.
No, not at all. But will he have enough time to get in and out again? Obviously, Boris has got enough time to that, so he might have timed that, perfectly to get that rubber down on the track and have that last run if he needs it. But like you say, with him putting pressure on himself by invalidating on the last turn, can he get it right this time, Carlson? Goes through the last bend. What is it going to be? It's going to be a time, and it's a 1:21.5. So like you say, not quite the first lap time he put in. But does he have time to get in again, Zach?
How long we got left? Probably only a couple of minutes. Yeah, 4 minutes 30. Does a nice slow cool down lap time. That's going to be, say, 1:40. That's going to bring it down to 3 minutes. He could.
It's going to be very close, isn't it? He's got to rush. He's got to go for it, hasn't he? And I'm not sure Flores is now in the pit, so he might have a go again. But the two Aston Martins doing well out there. Second and third. Front row in the start of the second row of the grid. With the two Mercedes up there as well. So it's a little bit like the start of the real life season, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah. Aston Martin actually being decent.
and Slapbus down in 7th place. That's the Perez. That's the difference between the two drivers.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, obviously don't compare him to Flores Fires because obviously that's a bit unfair to Slapbus. I think he's been thrown into that seat and has sort of been asked to perform. But when you look at the lap times, I mean, you've got Flores and Fires, they're in a sort of a league of their own. Then you get to Nathan Clark in third, a 22.0. 22.0 again for Chris, only a 1,000th of a second between those two. Then you've got Curse, a 10th behind, half a 10th back, half a 10th back, a 10th, less than half a 10th, less than a 10th, half a 10th, in increments of the positions.
It is incredibly close. It is incredible. I'm very impressed with the Haas driver of Banana, I've got to say.
He's all right.
Sticking to it there, 1:22.3, and like I said, he's only a tenth or 10 and a half off the top 5. It's crazy. I feel like we're going to see a lot of drivers coming out once again at the last minute thing, and the thing is with these times, the latest you are to cross that line, the better chance that you've got because the timings are so close. A 10,000th of a second might get you a position here.
Oh, right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at that gap for the second row. Again, Chris gets himself ahead of Nathan Clark. He can start, directly behind Forest Fires. Not at all a bad position to be in going into turn number 1. And can definitely sort of use Forrest to maybe get himself ahead of Carlson, whatever that is. And it's only a marginal improvement. But when you get to such a high level, when you get so close to your quickest possible lap time, it's harder for you then to improve, if you sort of get what I mean, because there's less time as such to find. You've really then got to nail every corner in order to gain time. When you first learn a track, you do a lap, and then even if you mess up one corner, you learn so much more from the rest that you can still make a big improvement. That's not necessarily the case when you're already so close to being really quick.
Exactly. And It looks like it's the last round of all the drivers. It's going to be a very busy track. They're all coming out on their outlap now, including Floris then. He's got pole at the minute, but he feels like he could improve again. Carlson, let's have a look where Carlson actually is. He's in the pits and he is coming out. So it's a last shootout here, Zach. It's a last shootout. Yep. And a little bit of info there, a little bit of feedback for you, Zach, from the chat. You are very, very good. Respect to the other commentator. He is very good. So that's great feedback.
Cheers, appreciate it, Big Boy Bumble. Very much appreciate it. I do try my best, and I'm glad it's coming through. I know absolutely nothing about the F1 scene of recent, so I am learning as I'm going. And of course, I sort of come from originally I come from the F1 and then I sort of dabbled in the world of sim racing. And
APP F1 days.
Yeah, back in the day.
You were only 14 then, I think, wasn't you?
Yeah. That's 10-15.
Yeah. Okay, so who's your eyes on at the minute then, Zach?
I have to say, Floris Vires, he doesn't necessarily feel safe in that pole position, which is fair enough. Not the biggest gap back to Carlson. In terms of raw potential, the pace that we've seen from Carlson is worrying as such for the Red Bull, which is, I think, why the Red Bull's gone back out again for that final lap. But the pressure is on, and you have to nail it if you want to get that pole position. It's got to be Vires or Carlson. I don't really see anyone else getting up there.
No. Of course, so there is about a half a second deficit. Nathan Clark there with a 120, pretty much dead. But WR Chris, literally 100,000 seconds. I don't know even how you pronounce it, but look how close that is. And they're all out on their hard lap right now. The Mercedes driver of WR, first time in today, and he's got himself a full-time seat in the Mercedes now. So he's looking to put a good marker down today. So far, second row of the grid.
Not bad. Not a bad way to do a debut, I suppose. There you can see Forest Fires. It was 9 thousandths quicker to the first, 9 thousandths slower to the second. Checker flag is waved. These are the final laps coming in now, so as you see it, really, but with it being such a busy track, Forrest has done a great job as to have his own space, just so he can focus. The final sector now yet to come. He needs... I don't really know. How safe is safe? I don't think you can really ever call it when it comes to Carlson. Got the final corner. Let's see what he's able to put in.
The final corner comes. Oh, he has a bit of a spin.
Still only 37,000 slower despite that. That was a well-held catch.
Wow, I tell you what.
That much lower.
I know, and I tell you what, Zach. What would have been if he didn't have that rear end spin there?
Right.
Wow.
Carlson though, purple to the middle sector. I think about a 10th.5 quicker.
So Carlson then taking it to Flores. Flores not able to improve. But had a bit of a wobble there on that last turn, pushing just an extra bit too much. But Carlson then coming round the last bend. Who is it going to be on pole? Carlson then! It's Carlson with a pole position! A 121.346, taking it to Flores. What do you reckon of that, Zach?
Well, not bad. Could have been a 3-4-5, but you know, it is what it is. But no, in all seriousness, Carlson has put in a sensational job right at the end of the session. So tricky. I mean, we touched on the fact that obviously the pressure that he had going into this session, invalidating that first run, maybe knocking his confidence a little bit, maybe giving him some frustration, but he's only used that as fuel. He's not let it get to him. He's not dwelling on it too much. He's gone, right, I've invalidated. Sweet. I'll just put in an absolute belter of a lap later on, right at the end of the session, when it really counts to go just under a 10th quicker than Flores Vires on the front row. That is going to be a race and a half.
Hey, my God, I am absolutely just gobsmacked with that. You know, Carlson, like you said, putting himself under pressure by invalidating. You know, his first run was a little bit off the pace, as you would say, you know, almost 2 attempts to try and catch the Flores. With respect to Flores, it looked like he was on an absolute flyer. They just a little bit of a wobble on that last turn, but Carlson responding with an absolute goated lap of a 121.346. That gets your pole position today, and I believe that's got now we've got a race on our hands today.
I think we do. Of course, the other drivers get sub 22 was Nath Clark, so only narrowly behind. Getting told in the YouTube chat as well that Chris said he was 5/10 up on his final lap time. Of course, whatever happened that led that to be invalidated or lost, but the potential was there. I think give strategy, DRS, everything else involved. Race is on.
It is indeed. So if you are wanting to participate in maybe becoming a reserve for the Tuatara Championship, then !TRL in the Twitch chat will get you to that Discord. You could join the Discord from there, apply to be a reserve, and you go from there. Obviously, each year in the Tuatara season, there is qualifiers. You have to qualify to get into a seat. But then, of course, with drivers not attending and so forth, we do have reserve sections open throughout the season. The Discord is in the chat. And Carlson then, round 3, takes pole. Flores not quite good enough there, but he will settle for the front row of the grid. And sorry, I was a little bit late on the old qualifying there. We were just too excited, weren't we, Zach?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, to be fair, when Carlson arrives, that you can't help but not get excited, right? Like, he was just insane, and that again is why he is so strong. That is why he won the championship last season. He's now obviously got a huge adversary in the form of Flores Vyers. But that is a huge statement to make. Both of them are the spotlight drivers. Obviously, Forrest Vyers, ex-F1 Esports driver. Carlson, that reigning champion. Both of them with a lot of pressure to perform, as we've touched on. Vyers has that expectation. He is here as a quick driver. That is that is his big talking point. That is his big attraction to this championship. Then you've got Carlson, that expectation of being a champion to then sort of be expected to take it to Vyers. But then Vyers is expected to beat Carlson because he's the esports driver as such. So both of them are going to be going toe-to-toe throughout this entire championship.
I'm just so excited for this race. I think them two are going to be fighting all the way through, from first all the way, the whole laps. And I tell you what, I can't wait.
Anyway, that is my 4-year-old commentator voice. And lights out and away we go. What a way to get started then. Carlson then goes round the outside. Flores gets a little bit of a knock on through turn 1 into turn 2 they go. And he's under pressure by the other Aston Martin is Flores.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Look at that as they run their way in towards the first braking zone. Chris trying to immediately launch a counter-attack into the braking zone. Inside line for the Mercedes. Nicely done. Slapbush trying to move his way forward as well. On the hard compound tyres as well. Nathan Clark should have the advantage on those mediums. We run our way down this back straight once again. You can see everyone ducking and diving, searching for that slipstream, but it's Carlson from Vyers. Nathan the top 3. Then Chris and Slapbush round off the top 5 and move for the lead potentially as Vyers sends it.
Whoa, he just had a little look there, didn't he? But too early on to be making moves like that. Let's have a little look at the tyre choices then for the race. The top 2, Carlson and Flores, going for the hard compound tyre. This week, the same strategy.
Yeah, definitely so. So everyone really in sort of that uniform nature, mainly and mostly at the same time. Does not work, by the way. Medium and hards for the most part, but then you've got Alstra and Swing Wong both on the softs. Be interesting to see how that develops as the race progresses. We are about to round off the first lap here, and Carlson did a great job as to keep Vyers at bay. Both of them running that same strategy, though, as we've touched on. Let's see how sort of parallel they're going to be throughout the race, what the differences are going to be. You can see that the expected ones are going to be medium to hard. I think that's probably going to be the way to go.
Oh, here we go then.
Session, thankfully. Oh.
Nathan Clark puts it round the outside. I was just about to say there, the one thing that Carlson has got in this race is he's got his teammate trying to battle there with Flores. So it's basically 2 Aston Martins against 1 Red Bull here. And Nathan sends it up on the inside. And with those medium compound tyres, gets the job done. Flores goes for the switchback. It's side by side down the straight. Remember, no DRS enabled at this lap. Nathan Clark then ahead of Flores.
Let's see who's going to be the one to get ahead. Aston Martin 1-2 as it stands, but Vyers is not going to be liking that one bit. Also in the background, I think Gagney trying to make a move on the Williams of Sloshy, but that is huge support there from Nath Clark. Not only does he want that second place for himself, not only does he want to make the most of these medium tyres, but he's also helping out his teammate who's already clear of DRS range. 1.5 seconds now is the gap. Carlson in control, and Vyers, it's an uphill battle from here.
It is indeed. Gagley right on the back of the Williams of Sloshy. Like I said, no DRS enabled as yet, so it's but he's used a lot of ERS as the Ferrari driver as they go through this area. What a beautiful section of Abu Dhabi. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the fact that they've not only sort of picturesque, so it does look good, but it's also nice to drive now. They've taken away the really harsh 90-degree turns. They're still the same corners as such, just slightly wider. You can carry more speed through, and it flows a lot nicer. So, of course, from an enjoyment factor, even better. Side by side, I think Sloshy and Gagley still battling out the fight for 7th place. The Ferrari fighting tooth and nail to find his way ahead. Sloshy not having any of it though, and defending this early on in the race while he's on hards compared to the mediums. Not the way I'd have gone about it for sure. Gagley tries to go to the outside, but their priority has to be to stay in the DRS train, because around a circuit like Abu Dhabi, it is so important.
It is indeed, and that's it. We can see a little bit of a gap forming, so he doesn't really want to be fighting here. Like you said, it's better to have that medium runner out ahead and just follow through, and Sloshy could lose a couple of places here. You get a good camera view. But yeah, so Sloshy almost lost out to Kimi. But like you said, it's probably better to try and get dragged along by the medium runner, especially in a huge DRS train opportunity for them, you know.
Yeah, exactly that. Chaos already with a time penalty for track limits, easily done around Abu Dhabi, of course, and it doesn't take a lot to get those 3 warnings, but so early on in the race, not the most ideal start, let's put it that way. Train forming for 2nd place as Carson is using this opportunity in the race to just build as big of a gap as he can, use a little bit more of those hard compound tyres and build a buffer zone back to his main rival of Floris Vyers. Of course, Vyers was able to win at Zandvoort. Carson was then able to bring the heat last time out at Barcelona Catalunya. Of course, that race doesn't count, but technically they're a win apiece. For Carson to win another, or well, technically his first race, but another race would be another step up and another statement to Floris Vyers. Early doors still, of course, but Vyers has got a tough race ahead of him, that is for sure, especially if Carson is able to continue building that gap.
Exactly, and if we see no safety cars in this race, you know, Nathan Clark, you've got to give it to him. He's doing a great job. He's slowing up Floris at the times he needs to, and like you see, he's then defending with all of that ERS down the straights, and at the Floris can't really do much about it. As he just try and send a little one down the inside, but just slightly, whether he's running a little bit less downforce when it comes onto the turning in and braking, Nathan just does enough to stay ahead, and it's now starting to build up a little bit of a pack behind him as well. As Floris goes one more to the inside, he goes through the section here. They're going to be side by side, and is Floris going to finally get this move done on the hard tyres? No, Nathan sticks it there still, and he's still on the inside. And they're still side by side. Nathan not wanting to give up here, and he reclaims that P2.
He doesn't not for very long though, because immediately back up the inside, Floris Vyers searches for the gap and it's messed up Nathan. In fact, because here comes WR Chris now through the penultimate corner, looks to go to the outside. You can see the Aston Martin having to recover some energy, using all of it in this battle with Floris Vyers, who's still got a lot to use. Now the chase is on. He needs to get away from this train, get after Carlson, and hope that Nathan doesn't launch a counter-attack. He needs to nail this first sector.
He definitely does. That was elbows out through those section 2 drivers, not wanting to give up at all, but luckily both of them get away with it, as we see a Red Bull slap us going to the inside of Chris and gets that position. Now the Red Bull is in play, and maybe he'll be able to use his teammate as well. Remember, these teammates are linked up in their own voice chats, so they can definitely communicate with each other as the race progresses.
Yeah, they can do indeed. Immediately on the counter-attack, and oh my goodness me, talk about assisting teammates. Slap us on the inside of Floris Vyers there. Nathan gets his way back past the inside, once he's done momentarily 3 wide as well. The ESC been thrown. 2.
It's a virtual safety car then, out. I'm not sure what's happened there. Can't really see. I know we've got a few drivers pitting early, but no, VC out, then only a virtual. That's kind of saved Nathan a little bit there for the counter-attack down the straight. But Floris is right. He's in a bit of a trouble here, isn't he?
Yeah, the momentum that he's carried into this race, it means that he's definitely on the back foot. He has to pick himself back up, recover from the time lost, and hope that it doesn't get worse and worse. Into the pit lane, Nathan Clark under VSC. Obviously, the lap delta compared to a normal pit stop, you only lose maybe 10-15 seconds or so as opposed to 20-25. So he comes in to take that stop with the mitigated time loss into the pit lane onto what set of tyres? Another set of mediums. So he's going to go another set of mediums, probably then, I don't know, maybe a set of softs, set of hards right at the end. Either way, an interesting strategy call nonetheless. But what it does do, in fact, is allow Floris this buffer zone of sort of free air, because now he's not under as big of an attack. He can focus on getting after Carlson. Slapbus can work with him, and back as we get ourselves back underway, Floris needs to get a drive.
He does, because WR Chris then is going to take that move ahead of Floris. So WR Chris in the Mercedes has got amongst the mix, and now Floris is back into P3 once again.
He drops down, not the greatest of starts, but immediately on the counter-attack, you can see using a healthy dose of the overtake, pulls out to the left-hand side with DRS. It's a walk in the park, really. And now the Mercedes sandwich between the two Red Bulls. And Forest Fires, again, that sub 4 second up to Carlson, who is in firm control of this race. I think Owen has managed to get himself back into the session. He's fighting away in this train for 6th, albeit with a time penalty to his name. But I have to say, for these guys fighting for second, I mean, I understand, right? If you're happy with second, you're happy with second. But Carlson is just growing and growing and growing that gap to the point where these guys, they're guaranteeing second place at best. They're not even giving it a chance to chase after Carlson. They all work together, slipstreaming off each other with the DRS, saving some ERS. They can easily get after Carlson and fight for a win. Of course, Chris now with a 3-second time penalty is a big hindrance to him. But it won't take much to close that gap if they all are in agreement and get after it.
Exactly that, and I think the damage has already been done, really. A 3.9 second deficit. Oh, hang on, hold up. It's another virtual safety car. So we've got two VCs coming out very close together. F1 Lewis then has DNF'd. I'm not sure where. He's DNF'd in the pits as F1 Lewis. So I wonder if that's brought out the virtual.
I think so. Oliver James as well in the Haas brings his way into the pit lane with no front wing and nearly caning it into the barrier, heading his way into the pit lane. So maybe the two are related as such. The Haas, of course, suboptimal for him. Still only a VSC, not been upgraded to a full safety car as of yet, which I'm sure Carlson is very much not hoping for. The control he has on this race is so vital, and basically just allows him to do what he likes for the rest of the race. He can control the pace, control the strategy, and cruise as such. I mean, Forest Fires has now got a lot more to gain. He has to push a lot more to get after him, as opposed to Carlson save his battery, save his tyres, because of that gap that he and his teammate were able to build in the early stages.
Indeed. Like I say, a lot of tactical mind games going on, but you know, if you're Carlson right now, you know, you've got a bit of a relaxing moment right now, if you would just, you know, going round, keep manage that gap. But of course, you know, a safety car just reels it all back in again and changes the strategies up for everyone. Remember, both of these drivers are on the hard compound tires, so the split in strategy won't be so different. So if Floris has got to catch up, if there's no safety, he's got to do that by driver ability alone. At the same time, he's got his teammate and the Mercedes there as well, which is going to kind of stamper. If they don't work together, it's going to stamper his progress to try and catch that gap.
That's not what Forest Fires wants at all, purely because he made the mistake of getting overtaken at the start. It's tarnished his momentum, has put him on the back foot, and has put him under constant pressure that unless these guys begin to work together, they aren't going to catch up to Carlson. You can see that gap at best stabilising at 3.9. Here's Slapbus, by the way, all over the rear end of the Mercedes. Is he going to look to go to the left? Not quite close enough. Definitely gave it a thought, but not heavy enough braking zone into this fast left-hander at the back end of the circuit. Swap of position, Expo versus Banana in that fight for 6th place as well. Plenty of racing going on out there on track, and this three-way fight for second, definitely intriguing, but Vyers wants no part in it.
No, he doesn't. 3.8 seconds is the gap now. So they have brought it down a little bit, but not as much as it needs to be. I think at this stage, Floris, well, would you say a safety car would really, he'll be wishing for at some point?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Probably around the time that they both come into the pits as such, he would love that. Mitigates that gap, gives him a second chance at a restart, and means that he doesn't have to push as much and stress as much. to close that gap. Of course, it does bring more people back into the equation as such, but yeah, if I was Vyers, I'd be hoping for a safety car.
Here comes Sloshy then on the inside of, no, Ghost switches round the outside. He's going to try and get the better exit in that DRS zone, but remember, the Haas has DRS as well. Could we see a double overtake, but as close as you like to the rear diffuser is the Williams driver of Sloshy, and they're gaining and gaining on the guy in front. The Haas goes slightly defensive, but is he going to get him under braking here? They enter the chicane, and they're still side by side, brushing of the tyres, and once again, Banana defends well in that section.
He does. Another change of positions, by the way. Chris gets himself back ahead of Floris Vyers, who has to concede, and it's doing more and more damage to these guys up here. Again, Sloshy versus Banana side by side through the long left-hander, I should say. Sloshy, bit of a twitch on the exit. Huge twitch, in fact, as he rejoins the circuit. Banana then has no pressure going into the next braking zone, able to stay ahead for now. Big twitch from the Alfa Romeo, of course, of Expo just ahead. Floris Vyers, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings, and a counter-attack for Chris. Both of them then level in their penalties, but less and less chance that Forest is in control to even remotely have a chance of winning.
Indeed, but like I say, a long race to go. 19 laps to go here at Abu Dhabi. A long way to go, but at the minute, Carlson very much in control.
Yeah, driving really nicely, and again doing exactly what he needs to do. Chris versus Slapbus, the up and under potentially is there from the Red Bull. Of course, with the Mercedes getting DRS, all it does is mitigates, or basically negates, that advantage that Slapbus would have. He's relying on Slipstream, ERS and Dreams alone. Now going to go to the left. Could he go for both in one? Lifts off quite conservatively just to only go for the Mercedes, who gives it a good go around the outside. Big twitch from the Red Bull as he tries to get the switch back, tries to get the up and under, does exactly that. Has he got the traction on the exit? Not quite good enough, but definitely look potentially going into the next braking turn.
He goes for the dummy left to the dummy right, and we see a brilliant view of the rear from the Mercedes, but nowhere around there for Slapbus at this through that section.
Not quite. It's too tight, too twisty, too technical really to send a move unless there's a mistake from the driver in front, which there hasn't been any sign of. However, Slapbus, he at the moment is net P2 essentially with the penalties, so all he needs to do is take quite a conservative stance in this race. The more they fight, by the way, the more likely that the Alpine of Kimi could bring himself in and get onto the podium.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see him in the background there. The bright colour blue just starting to come into their view. And like I said, the freeway battle here, you know, with there being a Red Bull, in two Red Bulls involved, is that the reason why Slapbus is just hanging back at the minute? They've got to just use this to pull them away now, because the last thing that the Red Bull wants is, like I say, the Alpine of Kimi to be brought into this fight as well.
Right, yeah, and I mean, for Slapbus, obviously, it's more a case of supporting his teammate. He goes to the left once again of the Mercedes, not quite as committed this time around. Bit of a lock-up from Chris, who has to concede that place now. We should see a wall of Red Bull, essentially. Slapbus going to defend for all of his might and allow Floris Vyers to build the gap, or at least you'd hope. Of course, now, with Slapbus having the DRS of his teammate, he's able to defend a little bit more easy, and Vyers is going to try and again extend that gap over a second. Then he should be in the clear. Then it's going to be Slapbus versus Chris in this fight for provisionally the final place on the podium. But Vyers needs to put some lap times down, and well, even then he needs to hope for the rest of the race, because already on lap 11, you know, these laps aren't going to get any shorter.
They're not indeed. And I think Slapbus now needs to do a number for his teammate, you know. Floris in P2, but he does have a 3 second. Slapbus can afford to back up the Mercedes a little bit. Just let Floris go if he wants to help out his teammate. But of course, these guys are individuals as well. They are racing for individual prizes. So we might even see Slapbus trying to take it to Floris as well. Who knows?
Yeah, right. I mean, again, how important is the team's championship to them? Maybe not so much as such. I mean, sometimes they've just been stuck into a team together and just have to deal with it. You know, sometimes you don't necessarily even care about it. You just want those individual prizes, which again is fair enough. They're all fighting for their own championship. Just depends how much that bus wants to be liked by Forest Fires, I suppose, and how much he wants him to buy him a pint at the end of the championship. But all in all, I mean, just the general camaraderie and just the general race sense makes more sense for Slapbus not to battle Vyers. He knows that he's quicker. He knows that he can ride the wave and gain net by working with him. Even if they weren't teammates, I would recommend not battling and working with each other. So maybe that's the consensus they're going to go with. However, with how hard they've been fighting, burning out their tyres, and of course they're not exactly getting any younger of those tyres, Carlson has just been cruising out in front, still over half of his battery in reserve, and still with a 4.5 second lead, and no penalties to his name either.
Yeah, just having a little look then on the... you mentioned about the tyres. Now, the tyres are starting to go off, whether or not you're on this hard tyre or the soft tyre. You've got Nathan Clark sitting in 6th place. Now, remember, he pitted early for another set of mediums, so he will have to pit again, possibly at the end for a set of softs. However, he's down in 6th place at the minute, and not too far off the leaders with that. And Curse as well, making moves. He's on the hard compound tyre now, started on the mediums, he's now on the hards, and can take them to the end. He's currently down in 9th place, but let's see how that unfolds later on, as the pit stop window is definitely open now for these guys at the front.
I think so. I mean, for those on the mediums, definitely now. Walpole gets himself a 3-second time penalty, but for the hards, I mean, ideally they'd want to go at least another maybe 6 laps, 5-6 laps, just to consolidate the fact that they can probably get to the end. We are approaching half distance, so it won't be long left to go in this race. And of course, as the car gets lighter, the less weight and less wear on the tyres as such, so maybe mediums to the end could be a viable strategy, especially for the likes of Carlson. His tyre conservation is insane. He is a very strong driver in terms of maintaining smooth levels of input, both steering, braking and throttle, and does a good job of just balancing everything about the car, balancing everything about the car, balancing the weight, balancing the distribution, balancing the wear. And that's what we saw at Catalunya, those that joined us last week. Softs to mediums on a one-stop, that man did. For a 36 lap race, I believe, was able to win on the road and actually win on track, after the results and everything as well. His tyre conservation is insane. His strategy game is insane. So...
And that's what it takes to be a champion, you know. It's all right putting the, you know, we say it all the time, it's all right putting these one lap beauties like godly lap times in, but to become a champion in a Tuatara championship, it's the little things, isn't it? Because the timings are so close. We say it's the little things. It's the tire management, the fuel, to put in the correct fuel in, to take it to the line with the least amount of fuel possible. You know, sometimes a little bit of luck is involved in that when you see safety cars, but this sort of championship, we don't see many of them. So, you know, this is what builds up to be a great champion. And of course, Carlson has done it before in the Tuatara Championship, and he's well and truly got that experience. And when you explain about how he does the tyre management, you know, he's an all-rounder, isn't he? And it just seems to be working for him today.
I mean, when doesn't it work for him, really? I mean, it'll be interesting to see if/when we do have a bad round from our top drivers and how they cope with it, because a bad round for Carlson is probably a podium as such. A bad round for Flores is probably this one. I'm sure he's not very happy with how things are going, and yet he sat there in 2nd place. So it's all relative and how they manage it and sort of limiting the damage as such. Chris comes into the pit lane off those hard compound tyres. He'll head his way on to presumably the mediums to go the other half of the race with less fuel and less wear, so could well easily get to the end, I think.
Yeah, so he's the first one out of the top runners then to jump off those hard compound tyres. Will that set the others off? Because obviously Chris, he does have a 3 seconds, sorry. It'll be interesting to see when Slapbus then, you know, he's at the minute he's following, he's happy to follow Flores. But of course, these guys have to come into the pit at some point, and they're both on the same strategy. Whether or not they're mic'd up, could Flatbus effectively going a little bit early and get the jump on Flores?
Well, you'd think so, but the fact that Slapbus hasn't got 3 second time penalty gives him a bit more wiggle room. He can go later, have fresher tyres to the end of this race, or he can be in control of the situation, maybe go a lap earlier, cover off the undercut from the Mercedes, and then also get the undercut on Flores Fires as well. Slapbus, I would say, definitely has a good position, a good stance in this pit stop window. However, Chris coming in that lap earlier, fresh mediums compared to old hards, that's going to be a huge pace delta, and could well see him get ahead of both of them. But it all depends on how good these two are getting in and out of the pit lane.
Yeah, so position change and Expo up 6 places from the start of the race. He's your biggest gainer along with Missing Wall and Banana. But of course now the pit stops are happening. Slapbus does come in a lap earlier than Flores. So, you know, with that leeway you were talking about earlier, he's not bothered about that. He wants to get ahead of Flores.
He does. Sloshy, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings once again. So track limits really playing a factor in this race. Lap 16 of 29. Carlson continues. Forrest continues. Neither of them really looking like they're coming into the pit lane. I mean, they're not really phased by the undercuts or anything like that. So I think they're going for a fairly parallel strategy in that regard. But where is the gap? Chris versus Slapbus. He's come out ahead, has the Mercedes. Not by much, though.
No, not by much at all. And like I said, they're both on the medium compound tyre. Chris with a 3-second. Now, we could have an easy move here. He's got no DRS as the Mercedes driver. So the Red Bull could take this to him right now, but he's got to get that move done quick if he wants to get ahead of Flores. Is he going to go for this time around, get the better exit? Remember, he's on his outlap, so obviously the Mercedes does have the temperatures of the tyre in their optimal place they want to be, but that doesn't stop the Red Bull going round the outside before the braking zone, and that is Slapbus up in the 7th place.
Of course, that net P3 that we've been talking about, and with slightly fresher tyres as well, not by much, but you'd be surprised how big of a difference one lap can make. Carlson into the pit lane from the lead. Flores staying out once again. Is he going for hards to softs?
That's an interesting call. That is a very interesting call. Maybe he's just kind of throwing it out there as like the, you know, just, he knows the situation he's in right now, and, you know, he's got to wait for either a safety car or he's got to try just anything, really. You know, doing the conservative kind of strategy right now is not going to work for him. You know, he's still hungry for that win, so he's clearly thinking, well, do I stay and go for the hard to the softs and try and push on, or do I hold out as long as possible and hope there is a safety car at the end, and then of course he will then have a chance for that P1. So he's definitely thinking of his strategy out there, Zach.
Of course, yeah. And for as far as he knows what he's doing, he's a very quick, intelligent driver. He's got years upon years of experience to call back on. So he'll know the situation out there. He'll know what he can roughly get away with. But you can see the wear is getting to him. The car's a bit more twitchy, a little bit less stable, under braking on the traction zones. He's got to be so careful, as we've got side by side Banana, Kirsten, Slapbus making their way fight for what is a P4.
It is indeed, and the thing is, Slapbus is right amongst it. He doesn't want to be battling these. He wants to get ahead of them, but it's amazing racing and defence from Banana and Chris trying to go around the outside of them as well. You've got Curse amongst it as well. This is fantastic racing.
Really is. As they emerge through the final sector, you can see the Mercedes trying to hold Slapbus up, I think, in benefit of his teammate. As they cross the start finish line once again, you can see Chris able to get himself back ahead of the Red Bull, who's immediately on the counter attack, already ahead and alongside into turn number 1. It's the long way round, wheel to wheel contact. Carlson with a 3-second time penalty. The long way round for Slapbus, though. He's got to do it all over again through turn 2, then into 3. He's able to have that inside line, takes 5th place back, but now he's still in the same predicament, sandwiched between the two Mercedes.
He is indeed. That was some very close wheel-to-wheel racing, including a few wheel bashers there.
Definitely so. And here we go. Here's Slapbus in the DRS, pulls out to the right versus Curse, and that should be him through, you'd think. However, Curse has done a great job bringing Chris back into contention. Carlson leaves the pit lane 4 seconds ahead of Slapbus, so still safe in terms of that penalty region. But it just goes to show, if these guys hadn't fought, hadn't battled so hard, they would be in range of Carlson. Of course, hindsight is a dangerous thing. Chris once again on the counter-attack towards the inside. But you've got to think, in hindsight, do these guys regret their battles? Because they could be in with a shout of being ahead of Carlson in terms of that aggregate.
Yeah, and of course Slapbus obviously amongst it still with no penalties. Like you said, Carlson has now picked up a 3-second. Nathan Clark in 2nd place. Remember, he pitted early and went medium, so he will have to pit again, but he's going to be extremely fast at the end. Now, what would you say the softs would run round here?
Well, I mean, it'd essentially be qualifying pace, really, if he's able to get it to the last couple of laps, at least initially. So probably close to what we'd be seeing in qualifying as such. I mean, the fast lap is a 24.5. I'd say maybe we could get mid-23s on a set of softs, low fuel for Flores.
So Carlson then on his teammate, he's probably going to let this one go. Obviously, Nathan Clark on a complete different strategy to him as he tucks back inside. But of course, like I said, Nathan is going to put those soft tyres on at the end. He's probably going to do about 7 laps, I would say. There's 10 laps left to go. When he gets to about 7, he's probably going to put on the softs. And like I say, we're going to see some qualifying pace and seeing where Nathan Clark can get himself up to. Whether or not the two-stop is the right strategy, he thinks so. And like I say, he's got no penalties at the minute. And with those early pit stop, it's kind of stopped him from getting involved in those battles, hasn't it?
It has done, side by side, by the way. Long way round for Slapbus. He's able to consolidate 4th place. Chris trying to give everything and a little bit more to fight with him. Of course, this is going to be benefiting Flores because they're slowing themselves down in that direct battle that they were having with him. So that'll be interesting to track, of course. But yeah, for Nathan Clark, I don't see the two-stop working. I think he's only going to get 7 laps on the softs. They're going to wear down as well. Fastest lap for Carlson. And he's not going to be able to maintain that qualifying pace for all of those 7 laps. He's not going to be able to mitigate an extra stop unless there's a safety car in the dying moments. I have to say, unfortunately for Nathan Clark, yes, he's been able to stay out of trouble. Yes, he's driven a great race. But I don't think putting under the safety car was the best option.
Exactly that. And like I said, 9 laps left to go. I mean, we could see a safety car, but it's very rare we see them in the Tuatara Championship. Maybe towards the end of the championship when there's a lot more at stake. But he had to try, didn't he? But the problem is he may have actually got rid of a P2 for himself as well. So, I don't know, Nathan Clark, Slapbus is looking good as well. Like I said, there was early battles. He's, 3 seconds, 6 seconds? Yeah, Carlson's got this in the bag, I think, but I'm worried a bit about Flores. He's got to make a pit stop. He's going to be ultra fast at the end. But of course, if you look at Nathan Clark, he has to pit on the softs again, and he's only 6 seconds away from Flores without a penalty.
Yeah. So we'll see what Nathan Clark can do. I mean, for Flores, Carlson is nearly closed back in that pit stop range. He's only 4.5 seconds behind. Flores is going to need to gain 16 seconds on the softs in, say he comes in next lap, say 7 laps. That's, nearly more than 2 seconds lap. Nathan is in, by the way, so we'll see what tyres he goes on to. Presumably the softs should be able to get to the end just. But Flores is going to have to drive the wheels off those softs. A similar strategy to what we saw in Zandvoort, a similar strategy to what we saw in Catalonia. Slow start, long first stint, very fast, very punchy final stint. It's a risk because obviously you have less time on the fast tyres, less time to use them. But if he can make it work, he can make it work.
Well, he's going to come out behind Expo and Kinney, so he's got to get a couple of overtakes done, but he has come out with a little bit of free air for a minute to really put the power down and try and gain some time against Flores. Remember, no penalties for Nathan as yet, and that's his job out there today, I believe. Is trying to get that podium. If you remember, he helped out his teammate at the start of that race with an exceptional job at holding up and Flores, which really did stamp his race. So I think if anyone needs to buy anyone a beer at the end of this race, it's definitely Carlson for Nathan Clark, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, that team game that we saw in the early stage, again, it disrupted Flores, right? It brought him down as he comes into the pit lane, by the way, for his first and only stop. Basically, it brought Chris, it brought Slapbus all into the mix to fight with Flores, allow Carlson to get away, and then he was just home free. Are those... They are softs. I thought for a second I saw a tinge of yellow. I was going to say, what is going on there? Flores emerges then. He will be the fastest man out there on track. Let's see what he can do.
Let's see what he can do. As Nathan Clark, remember, also pitted on those soft compound tyre. Let's have a look at Flores then. He's coming out of the pits. Through under the tunnel he goes. And it's flat out from here. As you can see, a driver coming through that section. Where is he going to come out? He does get ahead of F1 Kimi, which is crucial when it comes to the battling of Nathan. Nathan's still 2 seconds behind Expo. And Expo battling now with Kimi. So crucially for Flores, he does get ahead of the 2 drivers that are battling now at the minute.
Yeah, that's the good thing. Nice, some nice clear air. You've got to get after Curse, tick that off. Shouldn't be too hard. 17.4 seconds though to the leader. That is going to be so tough to close in the final stage. Maybe his sights aren't necessarily set on winning, more so consolidating a good place, second, third, whatever it might well be. That is a more attainable target. Winning this race is going to be so incredibly difficult though. Carlson isn't going to experience a huge drop off in pace on, fairly fresh mediums. They're not going to completely fall off a cliff and die and be 3 seconds a lap slower. Maybe they will, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Flores has got a difficult time ahead of him. Second is going to be a push with that penalty that he's got. Slapbus not having it as such. However, VHC...
It's a virtual. Oh, Zach. That could have been very interesting if that turned into a safety, wouldn't it? 3 virtuals. Interesting, Zach.
Yeah, I'm sure Flores is going to be kicking himself that he didn't delay his pit stop a lap later. But again, hindsight, you can't think in hindsight. He's got to act with what he's got now. I will say, it's shortening the amount of time that Flores has spent going really quickly. It brings everyone back down to the same speed, which is Flores, which is what Flores isn't relying on. He needs everyone to be as slow as possible while he's going as quick as possible. The only way that he can do that is full racing speed, thankfully only lasting a couple of corners or so. But he's back down racing again in 4th place. Huge gap up though, but Slapbus and Chris still very close. They'll fight, slow each other down. Flores for second I can see happening.
Well, he's for second. I don't know. I think he's going to struggle getting on the podium. He's got 8 seconds to try and get Chris. Both of them with a 3-second penalty. You've got Chris battling out with Slapbus as we speak. Slapbus, who is effectively 9 seconds ahead of Flores with no penalty. So Flores not only has to catch him, he's got to overtake and gain 3 seconds on both of these drivers. It's a long. It's going to be a long ask. It's going to be a big ask for Flores. But if anyone can do it, it's a Formula One ex-esports driver, isn't it?
Right, yeah, exactly. He's going to be motivated as ever. He'll want to drive the wheels off that car, drive as quickly as it possibly can go. Got to be careful though, of course, with the softs degrading. They're not going to be so quick in a few laps time because they are softs and they will wear. But there you can see purple final sector, despite the fact that it was a VSC lap. Now we'll see his true pace come to the limelight, already close 2 seconds to that gap ahead. He's still got about 6 laps left to go, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 laps left to go in this race. I mean, it can happen. Could happen.
It can, and of course, with the championship clearly going to be so close, as we've seen and witnessed already in, should we say 2.5 rounds? The competitiveness is so high that these extra points when it comes to fastest lap, are definitely going to count. So, consolation prize, if you like, for Flores. May not get that second win today, but he's clearly thinking of that extra point for fastest lap. And of course, at the same time, he's trying to hunt down P3 at the minute. Half that time now, down to 5.2 seconds. So, hasn't taken him long at all to take chunks out of that gap.
Hasn't really at all. The only thing is that he's only taken 2.5 seconds out of Carlson, so the win out of reach, absolutely. Second place firmly on the cards though, and again, as you say, when it comes to limiting the damage, Flores, pace-wise, he's not lacked. But circumstance-wise, he has. He's been a little bit unlucky, didn't manage that start to the best of his ability, and is now suffering the consequences of it. But a 2.5 second quicker fast lap at 23.7, like sort of that around that pace that we expected on the softs, running very, very quickly indeed. But these are the moments in the championship he's going to be grateful for, maximising his point score even on a day that's not really been overly great. In a few rounds' time, when we get to the tail end of the championship, he's going to be grateful that he's picked up every single point possible.
Exactly that. And the WR Chris as well, he's battling it out with the Red Bull. I mean, if anything now, Slapbus, he's like saying he's driving for himself though, and WR Chris has that 3 seconds, but all the while Flores is catching this pack as well. Whether or not Slapbus is backing him into him a little bit here and playing the team game, we can't really tell. We don't have their voice chat, but around the outside, around the outside the Mercedes goes, but is the Red Bull going to try and sneak it back in the inside, the side-by-side action? And that's what makes that section so beautiful. So many different lines with attack and defense, and WR Chris then gets ahead of the Red Bull.
Yeah, nicely done. Brilliant move indeed. Slapbus now, of course, has to work hard. He's got a lot more ERS to use and bank on, which is always going to be helpful. Another 3-second time penalty though, which hands that podium to Forest Fires, and of course hands that second place to Slapbus. So Red Bull are looking for a great day in the constructors, because Forest is almost guaranteed to catch and pass these for seconds now at this rate, I have to say. Chris is going to be off the podium and fourth at best thanks to track limits, but all in all, it's been a great battle.
Yeah, and let's not write off the man of the hour, I would say, with Nathan Clark in the Aston Martin. Amazing team player at the start of the race. He's also pitted on those soft tyres, and of course, with a few laps left to go, he will be bringing that gap down. With Chris getting that 6 seconds, we could maybe see a potential podium, or at least a 4th place for Nathan if he can keep that pace up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a P4 at best for Nathan, and that is really clutching at straws. He's not got any penalties, so he needs to close about 3 seconds or so to Chris, which is going to be difficult. But if they continue to battle like they are doing right now, the Mercedes back on the inside, going into the fast left at the back end of the circuit. Nicely done. But again, pointless battling, really. Slapbus doesn't need to be having these battles. It's pointless. All he's doing is carrying more risk. Sit back. You've got 2 people around you that have got penalties. You haven't. Stay within the white lines and you will get a decent position. But the more you attack, the more you fight.
Yeah. And guess who's on the scene now, Zach?
He's right there.
He's right there. Flores has joined the party then. And the Mercedes, all this battling between the 2 Red Bulls, Flores is now right on the rears of the diffuser of his teammate and on the soft compound tyre, albeit the softs are probably really at the end of their use, but it's not stopping Flores as yet.
No, he's not slowing down one bit. He's looking very, very strong indeed. And let's see how hard Slapbus fights this one into the next braking zone. Flores thought about it almost immediately, didn't even hesitate, but tries instead to go for the better exit. Maybe go for one foul swoop and get them both in one. Of course, Slapbus, as I say, don't carry unnecessary risk. He has got a podium guaranteed as long as he doesn't completely chuck that car into the wall. He pulls out, gets ahead of Chris. Now let's see what Forest Fires can do. Defensive goes to Mercedes, but committed on the brakes. Bit of a twitch you can see there from the Mercedes. He's going to send the move back to the inside, but he gets his nose chopped off. Both the Red Bulls through into 2nd and 3rd. And now, let's see what Forest Fires can do. He needs to get ahead and get 3 seconds in the span of 2.5 laps.
I've got to say, though, that was great teamwork from the Red Bulls there. The double overtake, they both used the ERS, the double, but now it's game on. Now it's game on. Flores is going at him. They work well down the straight together to get that Mercedes and pull away, but Flores is not having any of it. He's now ahead of Slapbus, but crucially, Slapbus has to now stay with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Use Flores and use that slipstream. Use the ERS that you've got saved up. 2 laps left to go here in Abu Dhabi. And yeah, Slapbus has got, I would say, I mean, those mediums aren't dying. Those softs will definitely be feeling it. I don't think Flores is going to be able to gain 3 seconds. He's already dropping 1.5 seconds off the pace. Obviously, with a little bit of overtaking and things like that to slow him down. But on raw pace, that's difficult. Have we seen an issue into that final sector? I think someone had a small track limits incursion, but all in all, I don't think Forest Fires is going to be able to get 2nd. 3rd is his best.
Yeah, so not a great day at the office for Flores today, but he does have that consolation fastest lap, I believe, unless we get someone pitting for to try and take that away from him. We have seen it before.
It's too late now anyway.
Oh, of course, yeah. Take that out. Yeah, we're on the penultimate.
So he's got that at least, but then it'll be, I believe it was Forest that won in Zandvoort, wasn't it? So there'll be a winner piece in terms of World Championship points, which means it's all tied up essentially. There goes the move back up the inside, very close between the 2 Red Bulls. I have to say, Slapbus doing a great job as to, well, basically, stay in contention and stay right behind his teammate.
He is indeed, and like I say, I think he's just enjoying racing with an F1 Esports X driver here. He knows he's got P2, but he's probably loving it out there right now. A great showing from Slapbus today, and including the Red Bulls as a whole in the constructors. But Nathan Clark now 7.4 hasn't really managed to get that chunk off the time like Flores has, in respect to getting it between 6 seconds to try and get that 4th place, has he?
No, I don't think so. Again, those softs just die too quickly around here. Too demanding of a circuit for them. Too hot track temps, and maybe just overdriving the car a little bit. And he needs 9/10 of a second. Not unheard of, especially if Chris makes a mistake. It's going to be very close, but he hasn't got the ERS really to push like crazy and do a quali lap. He hasn't got the tyre life to do that either. It is going to be unlikely. Either way, a great race in that fight for fifth. The top five all been very, very close. All of them deserve it, and unfortunately only 3 of them can get themselves onto the podium. Only one man can win. That man is Carlson. He has driven such a sublime race, so basically essentially flawless. Yes, he had the support of his teammate, but he did exactly what he needed to do once he had that support. He knew that he was, the rest of the pack was being backed up. He said, all right, I'm going to lead. I'm going to charge. I'm going to control. I'm going to nail the strategy. He's got 2 more corners left to win.
Yes, indeed, and it's the man of the hour, helped by his teammate today, but you have to get it done on track. It's the Aston Martin driver, Carlson, is going to take the checkered flag with a show-off as well here at the Avenue circuit, and I tell you what, he can't be any happier than that. He took it in qualifying, took the pole, managed his race well with the help of his teammate, and an 8.3 second gap to P2 is an absolute domination, Zach.
I can't really sing his praises much more. Carlson, that lap in qualifying set the stage. That lap that he put in was amazing. I doubted him for a second after that initial invalidation, but then he brought it back. He saved his qualifying session. He took pole. He led the race. He seized control, and he dominated from that point on. What a race it was from Carlson. Of course, I mean, helped a little bit by his teammate, helped a little bit by some maybe poor decision-making from the rest of the field as such, with obviously racecraft and maybe not picking the best of battles at times, but that's not Carlson's problem.
No.
He's got nothing to do with that.
Of
he
course
drove
not.
the race that he had.
And of course, as well, he's got to buy his teammate a pint. I'm not sure if these guys were mic'd up today, but a big shout out to a few drivers out there, of course, getting their first points of the championship as well, including Banana. I feel like we watched Banana a few times there, actually defending quite well. Like, he had a couple of defensive displays out there today. Definitely worth the broadcast anyway. But who's your driver of the day on today, Zach?
I have to say Carlson, and I'd love to say Banana. He's done a brilliant job. I mean, technically that's 2 races in the points if you count Barcelona. Of course we don't, but he's up there in the top 10 with a lot more people present. Great job from the Scotsman. However, I can't take anything away from Carlson. I think it'd be a robbery not to give him the driver of the day. That race, apart from the 3-second penalty, perfection.
Absolute perfection. And of course, we will go over to our post interviews now, Zach. If you want to click on the post interviews, we'll see you over there. Well, what a race that was then for round 3, but technically only round 2 when it comes to the points added. Carlson then takes the full 25 points. Slapbus in second, beating his teammate today. Flores, not the day for him to remember, but does pick up that fastest lap point. WR Chris in 4th. Nathan just shy of 4th place there, trying to hunt down at the end, picks up 5th place. Kersen in 6th. F1 Kimmy, great showing there from him. Expo, the reserve driver, getting some points out there today. 9th place for Banana. In 10th place, Gagley. Missing one, our other reserve driver, having a good showing, just shy of the points out there in P11. But I'm sure we will hear from the top 3 in a minute. Zach, are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Whoa. You want to take it away on this one, my friend?
In terms of the interviews, I have to be on it. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, at the moment we've got Carlson in the interview room with us. I mean, there's not really much to say. You didn't really have much of a race. You just drove, controlled, and dominated. What a great way to make a statement.
Yeah, that was really nice to just have clean air and not to think about much else, really.
Can't complain. I mean, did yourself and your teammate have much communication? Was it an agreed thing that he was going to back everyone up, or was it just that you made the most of a good situation?
Not really. We talked like on messages just before that we'll try to help each other out as much as we can, but not more than that. I didn't think Nathan would overtake Flores, but when I saw he did, I kind of just pushed away to try to gap from DRS. and
Awesome.
and it worked.
Yeah, not bad at all. And once you got away, you really did get away. I mean, were you even remotely worried about anyone else? I mean, of course, you still had a race to drive at the end of the day. I know Floris tried an alternate strategy. Did it ever play on your mind, or were you confident that that win was yours?
I didn't really know the pace. I tried a new setup, and I didn't practice for the race at all. So I didn't really know how it would feel. But the setup felt great, and I didn't know if Floris would catch if he had the pace, but as we all know, Floris is a really, really quick driver. So I was kind of worried at the start, but after the pit, when I saw it in the box, I was like, he's not really fighting me here, I don't think. So I was kind of like lap 19, I was like, okay, I got this, I think.
Awesome stuff. Well, you did a fantastic job, and of course, looking forward, I mean, that rivalry between you and Floris is close, and week in, week out, it's you two at the top. Going forward in the championship, are you expecting to win?
I don't know. Floris is an extremely quick driver, so if he puts in the time and practice a bit, it's going to be really tough. But for now, I'll try to. I'll do my best.
Awesome stuff. Well, we expect no less. I mean, you've been driving so well so far this season. Thank you for joining us, Carlson, and well, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
So, congratulations, Floris. Absolute phenomenal drive. And I've got to add, I think, I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if you clearly didn't know that Nathan was helping you out as much as he did. But I think if someone owes someone a pint, it's definitely, you'll have to speak to Nathan about that one, because what we saw, once he made that move, a very daring move on Floris, it really gave you that chance to pull away. And like you said, you took that to an advantage and pulled away. But, you know, Floris, it must have been frustrating out there for you today.
I can't be asked. Actually, just so much. I didn't know teammate strat was a thing, but clearly it is. So next time I'm prepared for that, and I don't have anything more to add, because that was fucking bullshit. Sorry for the language, but.
It doesn't matter. We're not on Sky Sports. It's fine. Yeah, and of course, like, you know, they had a little chat, obviously, before the race started. And Nathan, give him his due. He really did take it to you at the start with those medium tyres. You know, obviously you started on the hard, so he did have that extra grip and managing to get that move done. But, you know, consolation, you know, you tried switching up the strategy we've seen, and of course trying to go for that softs at the end, see if that made a difference. And yeah, it was, and you picked up that fastest lap for a consolation. You know, the championship obviously is going to be very difficult and very hard throughout the season. So those extra points, you must be happy with, you know, say a consolation prize, if you like.
I'm not happy with the result today. I definitely not. Just I need to win these races, and clearly I got a tough task on my hands this season, which I'm aware of right now, and yeah, gloves are off right now, because I love it. Yeah, I know you love it, but
I love it.
Apparently I need to talk to my teammate as well right now, because I think he could have played the team game more. I haven't talked to him yet in any way whatsoever. Yeah. So,
well, maybe, of course.
Maybe,
go on.
Yeah. Maybe it's maybe it's time to have a chat with him after this race to see if he can hold up Carlson next time, because apparently that's legal in this competition, because they already did it on lap 5 onwards. Which is silly.
Well, of course, we do see this in real life racing as well. Not so much slowing up. You know, you've got to remember that Nathan was on those medium tyres, so he's a little bit faster. And we do see this in real life racing. We do see this in the actual F1 esports world as well. It's not something that is illegal. It's part of the game. But of course, you've got to remember this championship is you're racing for individual prizes. There is nothing to win by that I know of that is for the constructors. So and Nathan has just put into the chat chat there that his plan was never to slow you down. It just, what happened was happened, and Carlson then took advantage of that as well. But of course,
about that.
well, we can only go by what the source is. But, you know, you guys have got mic'd up. You have got a voice chat, team voice chat for the teams to sit in there on race. So you can play that game as well. So I don't know. I like it. I think it gives, what do you reckon, Zach? I think it gives us commentators a great spectacle. What do you think, Zach?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think I can see why people do it. As such, obviously, with the team game and things, it depends how much you deep the Constructors' Championship as such. I know the prizes are one for the drivers, but there's always going to be some level of camaraderie as such. I can understand Forrest's frustration, absolutely, because understandably, I mean, he's driven a great race, he had the front row, he had the pace arguably to contend with the win, and yet had that been maybe any other drivers who maybe thought a little bit long term, had aspirations for a win, he could have gone on and challenged as such, been a bit more consistent and stayed with Carlson, as is the general dynamic of a race at Abu Dhabi. Fortunately for Carlson, he was then able to build a good gap, and as good as Flores is, Carlson is as much an equal in this championship in terms of pace, and it was just too big of a gap to close.
Carlson, do you have anything to respond to the words of Flores? Game on.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what happened. I just saw the gap went big. I don't know if you guys crashed or anything.
No, he just overtook me for some reason. He had mediums, and he just overtook me. And then all of a sudden, he didn't want to catch you anymore. When he overtook me, all of a sudden the gap went bigger. So I like the fact he's saying in the group chat right now that it's that this never was meant to slow him down, slow anyone down. But as soon as he overtook me, the gap was growing, and then
I
rest
mean,
is history.
I think this is just, you know, building up to be one hell of a season, one hell of a rivalry between you two as well. And now we're seeing teammates come into play as well. Zach, it just makes me more excited for round 4.
Well, it's going to be even more of a slipstream fest when we head to Austria because, well, it's Austria, right? I mean, 3 consecutive straights, heavy braking zones, a lot of racing action in store for us. And, well, let's see what these guys can bring.
Exactly that. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is your two. So unfortunately, we haven't got Slapbus in here who got 3rd place, the other Red Bull. Great drive from him. But, of course, that is round 3 over and done with, and it goes to Carlson today. So the championship very much on, and like Flores said, the gloves are off. You join us next week at Austria. My name's Paddy Pat. Zach Sweeney. Oh, we've lost him. We've lost you, Zach, again. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. God bless.